Welcome to another positive cinematic spotlight where we look at cinema to try and remind ourselves and encourage ourselves as teachers to remain positive in our work. One of the things that I like to remind myself when things aren't going the way I'd like is that it could be worse. I'm sure you've heard people say that. You might frequently say that. It could be worse. That's a very common human sentiment that we've had for a very long time, even if that exact phrasing wasn't being used. Um, and we can see that in the popularity of the post apocalyptic fiction, whether you're talking about literature or movies. So, this week, what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at a post apocalyptic film from the 1980s. Probably the pinnacle era of the B movie science fiction um, genre and look at the best B fiction science fiction movie of the time, The Terminator. And you're sitting there saying, uh, Mr. Lyles, The Terminator is a hit. It's a major motion picture. It will last the ages, and it is considered still considered one of the best movies of all time. But when you look at the stars, the um, the budget, it still technically falls under the category of B movie of the science fiction genre. Now, The Terminator is one of those many movies that there are lots of ways we could look at it to get some positivity. I mean, we can look at Sarah Connor and see how, faced with a situation that is beyond her control, that she was not expecting, she found an previously untapped strength to survive and to press on. She didn't give up. She continued. She adapted. And that's very encouraging. And that's something that we as teachers need to do, especially this year, 2020, when many things have put us into a teaching situation that is beyond our control, doing things that we are not comfortable with, not prepared for, but we're going to do it anyway. Another thing we can look at is the nature of the creation of um, the Terminator movie. Because, as I said, when you look at the cast, the director, the money spent, um, the budget. That's what that's called, budget. Um, to make the movie, it technically falls under the B movie category because at the time, many of the people involved were not the Hollywood stars that we know of them now. Know of them now? That'll work. All right, you know what I'm saying. Um, because one, the writer and director James Cameron makes big money these days. He has two of the top money making movies of all time to his name, Avatar and Titanic. At the time, he had just gotten fired from, wait for it, Piranha 2. Did you know there was a Piranha, much less a Piranha 2? He got fired. So we're talking about, and Piranha 2 was his first official directing job, his first official writing job. He got fired from it. We're talking about an unproven writer and director. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger. He doesn't have that many more film titles to his name. His big draw being Conan the Barbarian, and at this point in his career, he's just considered the muscle guy. You need a big guy, a big, muscly, tough guy for your action adventure flick. You get Arnold. Many people didn't consider him to be an honest actor at that time. Throwing up some of the others, you got Linda Hamilton. She uh, is probably at the top of the list for this crew, starring in uh, a few more films, including starring in Children of the Corn, based on Stephen King. You got Michael Biehn. Um, I got beeps. Okay. Nobody needs me. Perfect. Uh, Michael Biehn, who also had a few more acting jobs under his belt. Um, this was not a guaranteed hit. Lots of inexperience, lots of um, new names, and unproven names attached to this film that many considered to be, when looking at the script, um, to be just another science fiction B movie. And yet, despite that, they came together. Um, they gave each other chances. Michael Biehn looked at the fact that he had a director who just got fired from his first full writing and directing job. He's got Arnold Schwarzenegger with his thick Austrian accent, who seemed to be just a muscle man pretending to be an actor. And he was not sure he was going to take the job, but he did. And, in retrospect, he's certainly happy that he did because Terminator is, as I said, considered one of the best movies. And there, of course, we can see the positivity and encourage ourselves to give people a chance just because it doesn't look like they can pull it off, just because it looks like we can't pull it off. uh, we should give ourselves a chance to break out of our boxes, prove people wrong, let other people prove us wrong, so on and so forth. But that's not what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is a part of the plot, and it's what I like to call the Skynet fallacy. Now, I'm sure we all know what the Terminator is about. All right, uh, a uh, a robotic or yeah, a robotic system called Skynet gains sentience, gains artificial intelligence, becomes self-aware, decides that the humans are his enemies. I'm not going to go into the whole specific details, but he does cause the apocalypse. Um, Most of humanity is killed. Not everybody, of course, because we need the post apocalyptic conflict. And in order to stop the humans, because uh, the Skynet computer entity is afraid that the humans are about to defeat it, um, sends the T-800 Arnold back in time. And it does so to kill Sarah Connor, who is the mother of John Connor, the leader of the resistance. And of course, the resistance sends back uh, uh, Malcolm Reese, played by Michael Biehn, to protect Sarah Connor. All right, so that's the plot. Now, as I said, I like to call it the Skynet fallacy. The Skynet fallacy is that in order to solve its problems in its present, which was 2053, it's not that far away. I'm double checking my dates because one of my classes is reading um, the Pedestrian, which is also set not that. Oh, see, I got my dates mixed up. The Pedestrian is 2053. The Terminator is 2029. So, 2029, even closer. 9 more years, and we'll have been overtaken by robots, and they're going to send Arnold back in time to kill the mother of the resistance. Only 9 more years. It's coming. So in 2029, Skynet, rather than dealing with its present situation, decides that to solve it, it needs to focus on the past. So it sends the T-800, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, back in time. Now, back in time, of course, at that time, Skynet did not have sentience at that time. It was still under production, I believe. Um, it certainly wasn't fully active at the beginning of the movie, and so, and even when Skynet gets activated, it's not automatically going to have sentience, and it's not automatically aware that there are robots from, or sorry, cyborgs from the future that it sent to defend itself. So Skynet has removed its direct influence on what's going on and is just hoping that um, the T-800 will be able to fix all of its problems. It's not looking at its own problems in the present day. It's looking at the past and trying to fix things that are in the past, and in doing so, removes itself from having influence on the outcome. We do that to ourselves a lot.
Time to transition to seventh block.
All right, sorry about that little interruption. So, as I was saying, Skynet fallacy, sending the T-800 to the past in order to deal with problems in the past, removing itself from direct influence. And as I was saying, we do that to ourselves. Something goes wrong, and we start focusing on what has already happened. We analyze what happened. We place blame about, whose fault it is that it happened. Um, we complain and about what happened, um, rather than staying in the present, which is where we need to stay. We need to stay here in the present so that we can deal with the situation, not focus on the past. Now, history teachers, I'm not saying that we never look at the past, but we should only look at the past to understand the reasons for it, not to um, not to stay there. We need to learn from the past so that we can deal with the present, not just stay there. And sometimes we just stay there. We get stuck. And every time it gets brought up, we go, oh, this is so and so's fault. Oh, this only happened because X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. A lot of times, things in history, we debate about the causes. Um, and by history, I even include last week. I mean, anything yesterday, we can debate about uh, who did what and why and all that kind of stuff. And we can get stuck there rather than looking right now at what we got to deal with. And when we're not looking right now at what we got to deal with, we're not solving the issues that we need to solve. So don't fall into the Skynet fallacy. Don't feel like you need to solve yesterday's problems. You're right. The similar problem might come up, and we might need to use your solution, but we don't need that solution right now. That's already been done. Right now, we need to deal with what we have to deal with today. So focus on the issues today. And if that same problem comes up again, then you can be prepared with that. I thought about that, and last time we did this, but maybe if we do this, then that'll go better. All right. So um, just remember, don't distract yourself with the past, whether it's something completely out of your control, uh, laws passed, um, well, completely out of your control. Always vote, right? Contact your representatives, but laws are passed and diseases run rampant through the world, and um, people act in violent ways, and all that kind of stuff. Don't focus on that because that's already happened. That's out of your hands. Focus on what those situations are making you deal with now, so that you can deal with those now. Um, as usual, as always, I want to thank you for what you do. Thank you for being the best. And I will see you next week on another Positive Cinematic Spotlight.